Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today I'm playing a deck as requested by a donor for the channel. This is a deck list that was posted on Twitter by Cunning Coyote, and the donor really wanted to see it, so here we are. It's well within my wheelhouse because it's a Dark Depths strategy. So if we can remove all the counters off of this, then we get ourselves a 2020 Flying Indestructible. So we either remove all the counters with Hexmage, or we use this new card, Mutated Cultist. So this is when you cast it, you get to remove all counters, and then the next spell we cast costs one less for each counter removed, so we can get a discount on like a One Ring afterwards. This can also remove counters from the One Ring if we're in a bit of a bind and need to get this, so it doesn't burn us down too much. So we've got these ways of removing counters. The other option is Thespian stage, so this becomes a copy of Dark Depths, except because it didn't enter with the counters, when it becomes a copy it doesn't have any counters, and then we get 2020, and then we get to smash face and have a wonderful time. However, we do have a backup plan in this deck, which you don't always have in some of the Turbo Depths decks. We've got ourselves 4 copies of Urza Saga, with a little modest Urza Saga package of Shadowspear, Pithing Needle, Lavaspur Boots, and Expedition Map, so giving Marriott Lage trample or haste in certain situations can be really important, so those are useful, and obviously Expedition Map tutors for our pieces. Because of this sort of like backup plan, and the fact that we are just a One Ring deck and can just draw all the things we need, this list is running once upon a time to just try and find some other bits to get us there, rather than crop rotation to make sure that we can always have the Dark Depths. So we can play without Dark Depths a little bit better than other decks. So we've got ourselves 8 pieces of fast mana and Lotus Petal and Dark Rituals. We are an Ancient Tomb deck to power out our Saga tokens and our One Ring. And we've got a little bit of disruption in the form of Thoughtseizes, Duresses, and Not of This World to protect our big scary Marriott Lage. And that's it for the main deck. So we're doing a lot of stuff that you've probably seen before on the channel, but with a new flavour. So we're going to see how this pans out. Our mana base is 4 Urborg, 4 Blooming Marsh. I do worry about the black count in this list. That is my first concern. Obviously, Lotus Petal can help that a little bit, but that is definitely something to be a little bit concerned about here with just 12 starting black sources. But we're going to try the list as was originally designed. That's what the donor wanted to see. And, you know, there's going to be learning from this one way or the other. Sideboard-wise, we have another new card in Vexing Bauble. If a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. So if we play this, we can really jam up whether it's counter spells or loads of people trying to play 0-drop artifacts to combo off or whatever. This can do all of that. This is only a one-off because we're going to tutor off of Urza Saga. We've got a bit more hand disruption if we need that. We've got some creature removal and Dismember. We've got some Force of Vigor. I do like Force of Vigor at the moment because of the Necro Dominance deck, which is pretty busted, to be honest. Having something that can blow up your opponent's thing is quite nice on turn 0, but is this actually castable in our deck is the next question. I don't believe it is. So we're going to change this out for something else. Okay, so we're going to keep one natural state. We're going to have natural state as our 1-drop piece of removal instead of the Force of Vigors. Now this doesn't hit everything, but it does hit Necro Dominance, which is like one of the big things we need to hit right now. We've got some Graveyard Hate in Leyline the Void as well. I just don't think this deck can reliably cast Force of Vigor for pitch cards or the other cast mode either. So I don't think this is where... I think the natural state is going to be better a lot of the time. And I think just having a 1-drop removal instead of having something like Abrupt Decay is going to be better for us when we're trying to deal with these combo decks that are running rampant right now. And we've got a couple more Not of This World in case someone is playing a slower game wanting to remove our creatures. Although there's a bit of tension between Not of This World and Vexing Bauble that is worth noting. But that's pretty much it for the deck tech. So it's time for us to start jamming some 2020s. Remember to like and subscribe. It really does help the channel out, and we're growing quite nicely now. We're over 3,100 subscribers. So the next big milestone is probably like 5k subscribers. So if you can help me hit that, I would be very grateful. All right, let's jam some Marriott Lage. This hand seems pretty reasonable. Only got a way to make Marriott Lage here. I'm going to keep this one. And we also have the black mana, which I thought might prove a little bit difficult. So we can fire for Once Upon a Time a little deeper. If we can find an Urborg, that changes things in terms of our clock. All right, a Marsh Flats. What does this mean for my opponent? It's probably going to be black-white taxes because the Yorion is there as well. All right, we found the Urborg. So I'm going to fire off this Once Upon a Time. There's multiple ways we can work this one out. Do we want this Blooming Marsh right now? I don't really want to get wasted off of mana, but we have another Blooming Marsh here. Maybe I'll take the Ancient Tomb as a backup plan here. So we have to ask ourselves, are we racing towards Marriott Lage because we have this Not of This World, which can be quite handy? Or are we looking to play a slower game with Saga? I think I want to play the Do I play... if I play this now, it gets around Thalia for next turn. And it might represent Orcish Bowmasters, which might make our opponent think. I'll finish my previous thought as well. I think it's better to race towards this and then have this as the backup plan. Like, they both get kind of junked by Wasteland a bit. Witch Blessed Meadow. So this is a disenchant creature. Or a land. I think this is a really strong card. Like, all of the land spell cards are strong. This one in particular. Okay, so there is the Thalia. So this jams us up because of our Not of This World becomes uncastable. So I believe that means we're supposed to play out this Urza Saga first. We miss out on a construct, but maybe it changes where our opponent plays. Or we could play out the Ancient Tomb here. I just want to be able to cast this Not of This World when we go for it. Alright, I'm going to play out the Ancient Tomb. This means if there's any other weird taxing effects that arise, we can at least try and interact with them. Right, so we're going to take 2 from the Thalia here. And then hopefully we can do our Mutated Cultist into Dark Depths. The problem with the Cultist as well is its sorcery speed, so it does open us up to a lot of things. There is a Wasteland. They're going to fire that off, sure. I'm okay with that. A Lion Sash, sure. Another Not of This World. It really is a game where they're asking us to play a little bit slower. Does this mean... I think we're going to go down the Urza Saga route now. We've got a Wasteland out of our opponent's hand. Maybe we can drag some removal out using the Sagas and then just put a hasty Marit Lage into play using Lavaspur Boots. And that should do some work. Our opponent can eat some cards out of the graveyard to grow their Sash if they want to. I chose not to, so they probably have another follow-up play. Caracas. Alright, that's a problem. We do have 2 Not of This Worlds which can answer it. Loran of the Third Path. Yep. This is bad. Okay. We need so much mana to be able to work through this Thalia and this Caracas. Vampire Hexmage. Does that change anything? That allows us to cast one of our pieces. Our protection pieces. I think we're just going to play this. If we play the Blooming Marsh out now, and next time we play the Dark Depths, then we can Hexmage with 2 Not of This Worlds back up. Hopefully they tap the Caracas. We need the Caracas to be tapped. Because otherwise we're just playing around the Caracas. Actually, I suppose we're not because we have the Hexmage. So we're playing around 1 Caracas activation, 1 piece of removal. Right, we're down to 10. A Boggart's Bog. That's the one that's a little goblin as well, when it needs to be. A Flicker Wisp. This is going to cost us our Lotus Petal, which means we won't be able to play our Mutated Hexmage out very successfully here. We'll have protection against the Caracas, but not against other removal. And now the clock is getting a lot bigger. Okay, they turned this into a threat. That's really, really cool. So this is what? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now we have to go. We don't have a choice. Yeah, we're getting blasted pretty hard here. A Dark Ritual. Does that change anything? It costs 2 mana but makes 3. I don't think it matters here. I think we are jamming the Hexmage. We have 1 Not of This World we can fire off. We do have to play against opponent's Wastelands, as well as this Caracas. I think we are supposed to make this... I guess we can always first strike and kill something, and then make our 20/20, or we can make our 20/20 here. If our opponent has a Wasteland here, that was obviously not amazing news for us, but okay. No Wasteland, 2 cards in hand. They're only coming in with a little bit of damage. Now, we're always making this Dark Depths, so we may as well try and get the blocks. Do we save most damage, or do we kill this annoying Thalia? Our opponent's got something else here. A Swords to Plowshares. Alright, so we gain 20 life. That's not the end of the world. So now we have to try and rebuild, but our opponent's in a pretty good position where they can always destroy our Urza Saga. So we need like the One Ring or something, ideally. If we play the Urza Saga, they're just going to bounce and destroy it. And it's not actually going to change their damage output unless it stops them putting another threat into play. This is pretty awkward for us. I guess if we play out the Ancient Tombs, we have more mana to work under the Thalia in case we draw what we need. So we can draw a Dark Depths, but our opponent is going to be doing some pretty hefty chunks of damage to our life total here. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If they pump once, it's definitely a 2-turn clock. Okay. That 20 life didn't go very far, as it turns out. So they have us dead on their next turn. We can like play Mutated Cultist, shrink the sash, and stay alive for a little bit longer, if you can call that living. Alright, we'll play this out. I think we have to do this, otherwise we die. Just shrink the sash a little bit. We haven't got anything else going on here. Our Urza Saga's going to die to the Loran anyway. I'm going to play out this Lotus Petal because then we have two things and maybe that becomes useful later on. There's not many turns left in this game. Oh, sorry, that's reduced in cost, isn't it? Because of the Thalia. We didn't actually have to tap for that. Not that we can do anything with that leftover mana anyway. So end of turn, they Caracas the Loran. Alright, they're eating with the Lion Sash. Yep, so now the Loran goes up. On their turn, they blow up our Urza Saga, so we don't get any constructs. Yeah, this feels like a pretty terrible matchup. We have a 1-3 with Death Touch. So we can block this Thalia. That probably means they have another Thalia, or they're just willing to save it. How big can they make this Lion Sash? Quite big. We could just take the free block on this Witch. And then next turn we can change what we're blocking. It is a Death Touch body. That is the last line of text on it for some reason. You'd think you'd put that keyword at the top, but... Orcish Bowmasters. Okay, they did have a plan. So what can we do to win this game? Do get to make a construct now, but then they can blow up that construct in their turn. But at awkward timings for them. So we're on 5. So we block the biggest thing. We take 3, 4, 5, 6. We're dead. We're very dead. Yeah, we were just slightly taxed a little bit too much by the Thalia, and it just kind of snowballed again and again and again until we were unable to do anything. I would like some Dismembers, please. And I would like these Not of This Worlds. I do not want Duresses. They can take Plows, but they can also feel pretty awkward. I like the Pithing Needle here. Still got quite a few cuts to make, though. We've seen the Orcish Bowmasters. Are they going to keep them in? They haven't seen the One Ring from us. I probably wouldn't keep them in. Yes, that's like our lands are so bad against our opponent's deck, though. Like our whole strategy feels awkward against them. Maybe we're just supposed to trim on these Thoughtseizes. Just have the actual answers rather than, oh, here's an answer that maybe works if the timing is right, sort of thing. All right, we'll try this. We need to like a fast turn where we like spill a load of stuff out and get going with it. I like Urza Saga. We can play a Pithing Needle on Wasteland as well. I don't like having two once upon a time, but we can cast the other one at some stage. Let's have a free spell. I would very much like this Dark Depths for later. So play out this as a Saga. The Lavaspur Boots that's in our deck can be quite useful to get around some of these awkward timings that our opponent can throw at us. In terms of like their taxing or having Caracas up or whatever. Instead of having to survive for 2 turn cycles against their hate pieces, which is just 1 turn cycle. Alright. Our opponent must know the next card off of our hand is going to be the Ancient Tomb. And here it is. A little Surveil land of shadowy backstreet goodness. Alright, they don't need lands. Which means they're looking for action more than lands. Which is probably good news for us. A Stoneforge Mystic. Alright, this does some work against us, doesn't it? A Batterskull. Sure, if they can gain enough life, we can't one-shot them. Make a friend. Let's see what we draw and see if that changes what we want to do with this. An Urborg. I think we are getting our Saga value here. I think we want the Lavaspur Boots here. And then we can just play this Thespian stage out and jam. So we get to attack for 9 this turn. Which is not bad. We can threaten Marit Lage next turn as well. We can't threaten it with haste though. A Dark Ritual. Does that do anything here? Unfortunately, no. So I think we want to play this Blooming Marsh. So if we attack, this trades with a Batterskull. Am I okay with that trade? If they have Batterskull and a Plow, then we get absolutely blown out. I think we're going to cast this Blooming Marsh first. This Once Upon a Time off of our Blooming Marsh. Okay, nothing useful there really. But we've got our opponent's life total down low enough that a hasty Marit Lage can win this game for us. And we certainly have the ability to do that now. Alright, there is a Batterskull. If it attacks, we can trade a 4/4 for it. Rather than our good one here. Was this going to be Cauldra? It is a Cauldra. So the thing I'm actually worried about is what coming out of this shadowy backstreet. That's a Plow. We're going to have a bad time. I'll take this trade for now. Force them to reset it. Play a Mother of Runes or something. Please. Tap out of this white mana. Not of this world would be a great draw. A Vampire Hexmage. That's Dark Depths. And I'll fire off a Dark Ritual. And cast this. Things are not really getting better for us here. Let's try our Marit Lage. See if we can give it ward. They have the plow here. This gains us a little bit of life. And I believe that means we are attacking with our construct here. Dark Depths is a good draw. Obviously. Our opponent kind of has to live in fear. These wastelands are shut off by the Pithing Needle. Okay, they're just putting the Battle Skull on the big boy. Yep, just going to gain them 9 life a turn. So this is our turn to draw Dark Depths, really. Otherwise, our opponent's got us sunk. If they've got a Solitude, then we just can't win this game anyway. That's not what we wanted. I guess we play out this Urborg. This is 9, 10. So if we hit back for 9... Oh, what am I doing? They've got the Cauldron back because it's got Vigilance, isn't it? That was a bit of a punt, wasn't it? And they gain a bunch of life. Yeah, we can't win this game. Having both equipments is a lot. We needed them to not have power at turn or for us to actually draw one of the 4 Not of This Worlds we have. Yeah, just a bit of a tough break there. But these sorts of white decks with Wastelands and Plows and Solitudes and things always tend to be probably problematic for us. And if we don't win super early on, it becomes more difficult as they apply more layers of pressure. Because they don't ramp out, we can usually get in underneath them if we're playing a turbo build, but our build isn't as turbo-y necessarily. Because we don't have things like crop rotation just to guarantee what we're doing. We're not as reliable at making the Marit Lage, but we've got other plans. Alright, let's go to round 2. This is a turn 2 One Ring, which feels like a good place to be. I'll keep this. Let's see if we can avoid getting Necro Dominanced on turn 1. A Shuko. Okay, so our opponent is doing the other kind of broken thing in the format at the moment, which is the bird that just combos off. Oh, wow. This is some stuff here. So if they play a Shuko, they're probably not having Wastelands in their deck. Do I want to duress my opponent? If they have Cephalid Illusionist, we lose to that. But if we play the Pithing Needle and name Shuko, then they can't do that. We should have used our Once Upon a Time first there. That was nonsense from me right there. Well, I don't really know what we're looking for right now. But having a free spell that we can cast would have obviously made a lot more sense. So next turn we can Dark Ritual out a Duress into Vampire Hexmage with our Dark Depths and just try and end the game right there and then. Cabal Therapy. What would you like to name opponents? Vampire Hexmage wouldn't be an unreasonable name here. Crop Rotation. Okay, that's also a pretty good name too. We are giving them the black mana to cast out for our Urborg. Meticulous Archive. Sure. Okay, so we can Duress first. Just a Teferi Time Raveler. Okay. Then I will Dark Ritual out this little Hexmage friend. We've also got the counter spell ready to go. Who even needs Not of This World? Once Upon a Time even. A Brainstorm. Our opponent's deck does not run Wastelands. There's no room for it in the Illusionist decks. Alright, we got game 1. So this is a deck that relies on the graveyard to do its Oops I Win. So let's get these in. It also has a bunch of white removal. It also struggles against Vexing Bauble. It also needs to have its creatures in play. So these are things we can run. I don't hate the dresses, but I also don't love them either. They can win with just creatures. So we don't really care about these hitting things a lot of the time. We definitely still want Thoughtseizes. We're not going to need a Shadowspear. That can go. I still was trying to find 7 cards if we want to bring all this in. Which is a lot. Which is kind of one of the problems with a deck that looks like this. Like, what are we trimming on? We want to keep the core engine of our deck, right? Because, you know, that's what we came here to do. I think we can't get rid of these Once Upon a Time. They're so good in our opening hand, but they're so bad every other time. But I think that means we still have to keep them. We can maybe shave on mana. We could take out a Dark Ritual. Maybe we don't need the Dismembers. That still leaves us trying to find 3 things. Maybe we'll trim a top end bit here. I don't know if our opponent's going to go defensive or not. So this Not of This World doesn't really work against a Ferry is one of the issues. So maybe we'll trim one of those. And then where does that leave us for our last card? Maybe we'll trim one Once Upon a Time because we only really want it in our opener. We don't want it the rest of the time. Also, we keep the Lotus Petal over the Dark Ritual, so we have starting black mana. This hand looks like it does something, but it doesn't. Well, that's not strictly speaking true. It does do some stuff, but I'm not really sure This is going to get us where we need to go. Let's mulligan. We're asking a lot from this Once Upon a Time. But this is what? Turn 3 Marit Lage with protection, potentially. Is that okay? Like, it's not filling me with joy. Is it worth keeping this? Are we just stone cold to our opponent's thing? If they're going for a fast hand that wins the game, I don't think we can keep this. Okay, I guess we're on the Urza Saga plan. So we're going to get rid of an Ancient Tomb and probably a Vampire Hexmage. I'd rather just have lands that don't disappear. We'll keep the Thoughtseize in case we happen upon some black mana. If our opponent goes turn 1 Nomads, turn 2 Illusionist, we are 100% cult to that. Alright, they're not doing that. Leyline of the Void, right when I wanted it. Sure. We have this as a Saga ticking up now. Next turn we can just sort of bring the fair beats. If you can call as a Saga fair beats. Right, the Archive. They left it on top. No other place. They could try and just do it all on one turn. So they could play like Shuko and Illusionist. But I think we're on the Team Saga plan. Okay, we've got a backup plan as well now. But we can get the Vexing Bauble off of the Saga, which stops our opponent's actual combo because they can't cast a Dread Return. But means we don't get to cast Not of This World. There's the Nomads. So Vexing Bauble also stops Force of Will from our opponent. Right, so we're going to make this construct. And we're going to get... I think the Vexing Bauble is better than the Nomads here. Better than the Pithing Needle on Nomads. Because it shuts down other things from our opponent's deck. Do we want to keep playing the construct game? I think we're better with the construct game than we are with the 2020 game right now. Because our opponent's probably got plows. We can just try and exhaust the plows with all these constructs. Just like this. Cephalid Illusionist. So they can mill their whole deck. But it doesn't do anything while the Bauble's in play. In theory. Let's play out another land. Let's go to tax. So if they've got a Teferi, they can just bounce our Bauble out and win the game that way. And that's pretty bad news for us. I didn't have it there. Right, they're going to start doing some millings. Yep, so they are on the Nadu. This is one of the more broken things you can do in Legacy right now. Because it plus a Shuko or a Nomads and Core basically lets you draw as many cards as you want. Well, you get 2 per creature. Per turn. Which is, you know, usually quite often going to be like 6 cards. Right, we're going to pop our opponent's graveyard out here. They're just going for as many Narc moves as they can. I'm curious what the plan is here. Do they just have the Thassa's Oracle in hand? Alright. They milled some cards and then scooped after something, after the Pithing Needle. I'm not sure on that one. What happened there? They've got Teferis in their deck, surely. And that can just bounce it. So they definitely had lines to win this one. Alright, we're 1-1. Let's go to round 3. I don't hate this hand. Certainly does some things, doesn't it? We can keep this. So we can have a turn 2 One Ring if we want. Or we can have a turn 3 Dark Depths. Like, if we start off with the Ancient Tomb, we can use this to funnel the mana into the Thespian stage. I think having the option of playing the One Ring without burning our Lotus Petal is important, so I will shock myself just to get this Lavaspur Boots in. This means if you want to make a turn 3 hasty guy, hasty Marit Lage, we can do that. Lotus Petal. Alright, is our opponent doing some Necro Dominance? We managed to avoid it so far. Okay, so I'll let our opponent play it out, but this wins them the game this turn. So they'll draw 19 cards. And then what they do is they have a bunch of fast mana off of things like Summoned Spirit Guide and Elvish Spirit Guide. And then they Manamorphose that into Born Upon a Wind, and they get to play out all their artifact mana. And then if they don't have the win in the hand, they have Valakut Exploration, which then recycles all the leftover cards in their hand into new ones, which will find them their win condition. They can also Beseech the Mirror. So they've cast the Born Upon a Wind, they've done some Dark Rituals. Lotus Petals. They got up to Storm 9. Valakut Awakening. Yep, this is exactly what I said. So the maths on this deck is pretty gross that you can have like a 70% chance of a turn 1 protected kill. So yeah, that's some nonsense right there. Yeah, some more Dark Rituals. Storm is in the lethal range for Tendrils. I'm letting our opponent play it out so you can all see this because it's the first time that you've probably seen this on my channel. I think, actually, no, I played against Tony Scapone in the early access And he was working on this, and him and a couple of other people have pretty much perfected this build now. Alright, another Valakut Awakening. Okay, they still didn't have the Tendrils. So this should draw them to the cards they need. It just means you're very unlikely to fizzle. There we go, there is the Tendrils of Agony. How long our opponent's deck is going to remain in the format is certainly a question. Does feel a little bit too strong. So our opponent doesn't use the graveyard, so there's no point using Leylines. Obviously we do want Duresses, we want these natural states. We don't care about defending ourselves with that sort of stuff. This isn't like a Shadowspear matchup. Lavaspur Boots can sometimes come up here. Once upon a time, can't really find us things to mess with what they got going on here. The card draw of Necro Dominance is a triggered ability, not an activated one, so Pithing Needle doesn't do anything against them. He's trying to find 2 more cuts. Maybe accelerating out a big guy isn't necessarily the be-all and end-all. Do we want these One Rings? Maybe we can trim some of those because they're a little bit later. They do stop our opponent from doming us for a turn, actually. So maybe I am interested in trimming. Let's get rid of one of these. This doesn't find any of our hate pieces, so I'm less on it. Maybe we'll try trimming 2 of these because, like I said, it doesn't find our hate pieces, which are more important than finding our action pieces. That could be a mistake, but we'll see. This is a very polarizing matchup. Okay, we've got some awkward stuff going on here. Let's see. Well, we have to keep this. We have 2 pieces of disruption for their combo. Because their combo only wins with Necro Dominance. So if you can answer the Necro Dominance, then you're okay. All right, our opponent hasn't done anything here. So what is the land that we want to find here? This will start working towards a Vexing Bauble. So we play this out. I think it's better to Thoughtseize our opponents than it is to Natural State. Because they can work on their turn with Pact of Negation is one of the protection pieces they play. But our lack of persistent mana could be a problem here if we're trying to cast the Natural State. Okay, so we have to take the Necro Dominance because that just automatically wins in the game when it enters play. Which probably shouldn't be what a 3 mana card does. I'll probably play some Necro Dominance decks on the channel at some point. Don't you worry. Ancient Tomb would be an okay draw here. We're in a little bit of a bind with our own hand here, but this is such a weird skew matchup that you have to do something. If we don't have interaction on turn 1, we cannot win this game. Because our opponent can mulligan to 4 and still win the game. So now we have this awkward choice of what we do with our Urza Saga in terms of fetching. Do we get a Lotus Petal? Okay, they've exiled as soon as an Elvish Spirit Guide. 2 Elvish Spirit Guides. They're casting a Manamorphose. They're leaving the Simian Spirit Guide because the Simian Spirit Guide allows them to cast Valakut Awakening as well. There's a Dark Ritual. They found a Necro Dominance. Are we just dead? I believe we probably are. We go to their end step. We don't have any reliable green mana, otherwise we could try and smash this. Obviously our opponent just has a Pact of Negation for it anyway, so that wouldn't work. Summoner's Pact. Our opponent is going to win this turn. Wild Cantor. This allows them to start off and do some Dark Ritual stuff. Or get the blue mana they need for Born Upon a Wind to start playing other artifact mana. Alright, Summoner's Pact, getting an Elvish Spirit Guide. Yeah, so there's a combo deck that doesn't use the graveyard either. It's pretty scary stuff. So a bunch of Dark Rituals getting thrown around. A Cabal Ritual. Another Dark Ritual. Born Upon a Wind. They've still got this Wild Cantor as well. They can crack if they need mana of another colour, like for Valakut Awakening. Storm is very lethal here. They can Pact of Negation their own spells if they need to generate Storm. This is something this deck can do, but it's not really necessary when they're just popping off. Now they get to play with over a third of their deck, which then also has cantrips and a big redraw in Valakut Awakening to just... Yeah, there we go. So this was the missing piece that people didn't quite cotton onto on the first days of early access. But I think by the end of early access, I think Tony was still running the Valakut Awakening. But the first few builds I saw, people weren't running this. And that just gives you that extra consistency once you've drawn your cards. Because it means you're not actually drawing 19 cards. You're effectively drawing more like 40 in terms of the amount of cards you see. And you only need a select section of those cards to actually win the game. Alright, Crowbox. And there's the Tendrils. So our opponent's deck can also win through an Ulrod. It's harder, but it's possible. Yep, this is kind of going to be the new terror of the format. I think the format's going to kind of be pressed between the turn 1 combo decks like Necro Dominance and Oops All Spells, those sorts of combo decks are going to be pressing on one side of the format, just killing people on turn 1. And then the other end, you're going to have like the decks with Nadu that just draw so many cards that you can't ever outpace them. And everything else is kind of going to get pinched between those two things. That's my prediction at the moment, but it was very early days. All right, let's go to round 4. All right, we're up against a Euro deck, so we're not going to get turn 1, I don't believe. What does our hand do? Not a lot for quite some time. I think we can do better than this. What does this one do? Bit of hand disruption. Then an Urza Saga game plan, possibly into the One Ring. We can keep this. What are we looking to bottom here? Against a Yorion matchup, it was Death and Taxes style. I don't think the Duress is where I want to be, so I think that's the one that's going to go back here. So by playing out this Urborg, it means if we draw the Dark Depths, we can turn to Mutated Cultist. Okay, we're more on the control side of things. Alright, there's definitely some less than pleasant stuff going on over there. I guess we take the Plough. It's the cleanest answer to Marit Lage. This Force of Negation can certainly eat our One Ring, as can the Narset, and just stop at that doing anything. Meticulous Archive. Scryed away another Narset. An Urborg, sure. I'll play this Urza Saga. I'll play out this Lotus Petal. We can use the Mutated Cultist to remove the counters from a Narset and then cast the One Ring at a discount rate. It's quite a tasty play. Now they do have a Force of Negation though. Tamiyo. It's a new card, so it's a 1-mana 0/3 flyer. When it attacks, investigates. Whenever you draw your third card, you flip it into a Planeswalker that +2s to basically do nothing. -3 gets you an instant sorcery card from your hand. And -7 is you draw half your library and have no maximum hand size. Pretty much just ignore ultimates when it comes to Planeswalkers a lot of the time. My personal opinion of this card is that it's not very good. But I'm willing to be proved wrong in the crucible of actual playing games with it instead of just looking at it. Ooh. An Urza Saga, you say? Ticking up nicely for us. We can Duress our opponent, and then we can play the Urborg again. I don't hate this. That still lets us activate. I mean, it's going to cost us a Lotus Petal, but it's always going to. 2 Force of Negations, and a Narset, and a Wandering Emperor, and a Day's Undoing. I don't really like what our opponent's putting down. We can take the Narset, and then worry about the Wandering Emperor in a couple of turns, I think. Play this out, keep the untapped one. So we can make a 1/1 and then we can make something bigger. We can go and get the Vexing Bauble so our opponent can't cast the Force of Negations unless they're hard casting them. A fancy clue taken. Yes, the Vexing Bauble means that we can have an uncounterable One Ring this turn. If our opponent doesn't play a land, that is. So we're going to crack the clue using Urborg mana so they can keep a shuffle around for brainstorms down the line. If we... and we don't get to play the cult. We don't get to play the One Ring this turn. So if we crack this, we lose a bunch of mana. I think we still... Next turn we make 3 mana. See what we draw. I think we see what we draw rather than cracking our Lotus Petal here. Another Urza Saga. So this is 4 mana available right here. I quite like that. That is for black. This will go and get us Vexing Bauble. Oh, we don't have Vexing Bauble in the main deck, do we? Why is it not in our main deck? That's a mistake. Okay. Change of plan. We need to stop the Wandering Emperor. So we could 2-for-1 our opponent by playing this One Ring. What does that actually do for us? It stops us making as Saga constructs. And I don't want to do that. So they can keep drawing some extra cards with Tamiyo. Yep, so they're still looking for their elusive third land, I believe. There it is. So now their deck starts to pop off and do some spooky things. A Dark Ritual. So we can fire this on their turn to make our construct without having to lose the Lotus Petal. That seems acceptable to me. Because they can't Force of Negation on their turn for free. This is flying, so we can block if we wanted to. Now there is an argument to not use this Dark Ritual here as well. But I think I'd rather keep the Lotus Petal around because it makes our creatures bigger and we need to apply pressure. But we'll see what our opponent does and if it makes us change our mind. Teferi Time Raveler. If they plus this, we can Mutated Cultist, potentially. Okay, they're going to target our Urza Saga. So I'm going to make a construct. This can attack the Teferi down. Our opponent's having to go clean up. They got rid of the Wandering Emperor. We can play our Urza Saga. Do I want to ritual this out? I don't think I do. So our opponent has Solitude. Possibly. I think we're at least going to gain a little bit of life here. Actually, no, we just gain an additional point of damage on our guy, don't we? 2 to equip that. I don't think it's worth Dark Ritualing to equip. I thought about it, but I don't think that's where I want to be. Our opponent's in sort of damage control a bit by the looks of it. They just need to get enough mana to play these cards in their hand and do some stuff with it. Playing around this double Force of Negation is going to be a pain. Cycling Elorian Revealed. They got and played Tundra. I suspect we're now going to see a Tamiyo attack. It's drawing in some cards, to be fair. Just sort of slowly. Can we find a land? We cannot find a land. If I cast a Dark Ritual, is this going to get counterspelled? Let's find out. It's not a bad one to get counterspelled. Alright, let's Thoughtseize our opponent, and then we can use the rest of the mana to grow our construct. Dredge Down is something that could very much be in our opponent's deck, though. Just wipe all our constructs. Cracking a Clue. Is this to give them more options for what to pitch to their Force of Negation? Force of Negation, pitching another Tamiyo. Okay, let's just make a construct. We're working through it. They can have a plow here. They've left open 1 white mana very conspicuously. No, we're just taking it. So we got lethal next turn. Actually, no, we don't get to make a construct next turn, do we? We haven't got the mana for that. So it's not lethal next turn, it's just 11 damage. Possibly 12 if we draw a land and can equip. Yeah, I was a little bit skeptical of the mana base on this deck. I think that's been somewhat borne out in some of these games. Supreme Verdict. That's very good when we don't have anything going on with our lives over here. Oh, bad timing, I suppose. If we had a Vexing Bauble in the main deck, that'd feel great. I guess we take an Expedition map. I would like to get 2 cards out of my opponent's hand here, I think. Show me that Force of Negation, please. What is it going to be pitching? There's no way they can let this One Ring resolve. Pitching the Days Undoing we know about. So we're out of information about our opponent's hand now. Okay. Now the other option there is to crack the Expedition map. But we're already having to play our H2 to do it. So we may as well do this next turn. This means we can potentially draw and create a 2020 Marit Lage off of the Dark Depths. Alright. I'm not looking forward to their next turn where they're going to be wheeling us. What are they going to show us? A Dress Down. Yep, that's not great news for us. A Tamiyo, sure. Once Upon a Time that we can't cast. Okay, I will crack this now. Our hard pivot into Dark Depths, I think, is where we're at. So next turn we can play this Mutated Cultist and have ourselves a 2020 that is almost certainly going to get Teferied or Source of Plowshare, something along those lines. I don't like that the Mutated Cultist makes things at sorcery speed. That feels troubling. Right, so our opponent's got a Brainstorm as well. If we had the Lavaspur Boots, we could make a hasty 2020. That'd be pretty good. A Brain Surge. Pretty cool card. This will trigger the Tamiyo. I got quite a lot of clues out of this. Maybe it's slightly better than I thought. But yeah, so this plus does nothing. The -3 does something, but that's for next turn. Oh, he's Once Upon a Times. So, do we... What do we do here? I think we are just supposed to try and play the Cultist out. I don't think our lives get any better than they are right now. It's probably just going to be Source of Plowshares, you move on with life. We've only used 1 plow so far. And they're like 26 cards deep in their deck. But we've done the thing that we meant to do, right? With this deck, which is get the Mutated Cultist. But these Once Upon a Times feel pretty bad now. A Flood Stand being cracked. It's going to find a Surveil land because you don't have any removal in hand. Oh, they're just going to put the plow on top. Okay. How are we supposed to win this one? This game is over. Our opponent's got a full grip of cards. Bunch of card advantage. Their deck's naturally going to be pretty good against what we're doing. I think we can probably just go to the next game here. So, what would I like to do? I would like some Duresses. Vexing Bauble, not of this world. Which does not feel like a Shadowspear matchup at all. Don't really like these Dismembers. Don't really like the natural states. So yeah, this is what we're looking at. The Narset kind of makes the One Ring a little bit sketchier. So I think we can at least board down on those. And maybe we board out with a couple of... Do you want to board out of Rituals? I think we kind of need to have a big explosive turn. Maybe we'll drop 1 Once Upon a Time because we don't want to draw multiples. Are we dropping the Cultist? We drop one Dark Ritual because the matchup's going to be a little bit slower anyway. Let's try this. Once Upon a Time could do some work for us here. I think I'm going to keep this one. We can play like a Saga game. We have the Bauble, so we can shut down all the counter spells. Let's have a free look at our top 4. Sorry, top 5. An Urborg. I don't hate the Urborg. It's probably better than the Hexmage. Or is it? Hexmage kills a lot of their stuff. How are we casting the Hexmage? Okay, we'll take the Urborg. This allows us to just draw into our combo next turn. Would you like to try and do anything about our Vexing Bauble opponents? No. Okay, so counter spells are off. That's something. So now we can play a Saga game. I think I'll play out this Hexmage just to beat down with. We're going to be in sort of beatdown mode, and we've got to use Thespian stage to make Marit Lage later on. There's an argument for saving the Hexmages so that we can kill Planeswalkers, but this means they have to spend removal on a Hexmage before they can play a Planeswalker. A Tamiyo, sure. So we can represent Orcish Bowmasters quite easily here. Okay, they're not buying the Orcish Bowmasters line. I see. So we could make our Thespian stage into an Urza Saga, and then just have an Urza Saga that never ends. That's probably a good way of approaching this game. It's a little bit slower, but I think it's quite a powerful line. We can turn it into a basic so it can never get fiddled with as well. We're going to miss out on a construct by doing that. Alternatively, we make a construct now and then the Thespian stage turns into it next turn instead. And then we're applying pressure at the same time as we're doing some Thespian stage stuff. Right, so this becomes a copy of this. This doesn't get a counter on it for a little while. We should have done this in the upkeep actually, if that's what we're going to do instead of waiting for our draw. But if we'd have drawn something like a Dark Depths, it would have changed what we're doing here. So that does, I don't know, there's a bit of tension between making that play the way we did and how we could have done it. This means it's a bit longer before this starts pooping out constructs. There are the planes. They're fetching around Pithing Needle here, I believe. I don't think they've got anything right now that interferes with this. Oh, maybe I'm wrong. A dress down. So we're going to lose our construct. That's A-okay. We're in it for a long time, not a good time. I like Lavaspur Boots quite a lot, just as a thing that we have access to. I'm going to get that in play and start cooking with it. So I think we just play out the Marsh here. And let's take a peek at our opponent's hand. Terminus, Law Reveal, Brain Surge, Dress Down. I think what I'm most worried about is probably the Brain Surge. Like the Dress Down will eventually work through it. The Brain Surge can get rid of this Force of Will that's not doing anything. So Brain Surge. So next turn this goes up a chapter so it can make mana. Obviously it makes mana because it's an Urborg in play. But yeah, we definitely messed up a little bit there. We could have had this becoming a basic on our next turn, but we've got to wait one more turn. Alright, so the Wandering Emperor is a thing that can happen here. I can live with that. Let's attack, get some damages in. So there's an argument to whether or not you put the Lavaspur Boots on it for one more damage, or you hold up the 1 mana for the Vexing Bauble. I opted to hold up the mana in case we need to crack this. Alright, Tamiyo's getting the bits in. These powerful attacks for 0. Alright, we'll have another Urza Saga, please. So that gains that ability. Our opponent has hardcast Force of Will over there, so I'm not going to play into that. I would like to have a basic. Does it matter what colour basic? No. So now we have a basic land, so it can't be wastelanded or ruinationed or whatever, and it can just pump out constructs every turn. I think I should have put this on the creature last turn. Our opponent isn't actually dealing us damage, but they are drawing cards every turn and holding up counter magic. But their counter spell costs 5 due to our Vexing Baubles. That's like their whole turn they have to hold up. Next turn we can like Dark Ritual, transform this, make a construct. Sure. Clues have been sacrificed. Brain Surge. That's one of the things our opponent's been waiting for here. They do get to flip their Tamiyo, but again, I'm just not impressed with the backside of Tamiyo. Like you have to play this card that then you have to do something else with to get a thing that doesn't do anything for a turn, and then the turn after just gets to regrowth you. That doesn't seem amazing to me. Maybe I'm missing something, but I think the front side just making clues every turn is better than the back side. Is it a May transform? No, it's not. Okay. We can also remove this whenever we want. Miracling the Terminus. I'll just get rid of this. This means that they can play other Planeswalkers now, because the Hexmage is kind of just saying you can't have Planeswalkers. They want a Prismatic Ending the Bauble. We'd like to have drawn a card off of that, but alas, 'tis not to be. We're going to see a big 4th Eorlingus here. That could do some real work. So this goes up a stage. Right, I'm going to cast a Dark Ritual. This is going to become a Plains. And then we're going to make a guy. What? Okay, I had a little bit of lag there, and it's just clicked where I clicked there. It just made me have another Blooming Marsh. That's really weird. Okay. We were supposed to have a construct there. And now we've got perfectly wastelandable land. Might make our opponent think we really need green. Another Brain Surge. This card's good. What if Brainstorm was +1 card? Why not? Land cycling off the Lorien Reveal. When they have the mana to just cast that is really interesting to me. Have they got a tech land that they're going for? Meticulous Archive. They were going for a tech land. They value the Surveil more than drawing 3 cards, which is unexpected. Alright, let's make a 2/2 construct here. Let's equip it. I'm sensing the Wandering Emperor is in our future. So this annoyingly makes the next spell cost reduced mana. It doesn't just give you that mana, so we can't just funnel it into Urza Saga's next turn. It's going to be Wandering Emperor. Oh no, maybe not. We're just getting some damage in. Imagine if we'd have actually had a guy from last turn as well. What is this? You get X energy, then you may pay any amount of energy, destroy each artifact, creature, and enchantment with mana value less than or equal to the amount paid. Okay, so this is going to wipe our Lavaspur Boots and our construct. So it's just a white Pernicious Deed. Card is pretty cool. A Narset, sure. What would you like to reveal to me, opponent? A Prismatic Ending. Okay, we have a pretty clean line to Mutated Cultist this and then do some other stuff. No Narset for you. Let's test their counter spells. They can Prismatic Ending this annoyingly because of our own Urborg. Hopefully they missed that. But I'm not expecting this to resolve. Be nice if it did. What do they pitch? A Dress Down. Okay. Well, we've got a 1/3 that killed their guy. That's not too bad, is it? It's going to get plowed. It is going to get plowed. When we're a Dark Depths deck. Very bold. I don't think you need to plow the 1 power guy. Unless they're going for like a big 4th Eorlingus turn or something. That makes a lot of sense then. I guess they are only on 7 life, but maybe they've already got Dress Downs to cover our Urza Sagas and just want to make sure the board's clear. Yeah, having a big board clear turn to then gas all the way back up to 7. I can appreciate that. They're going to put the Yorion into hand. They're going to hold up mana. Teferi Time Raveler. Well, I've got an answer to that one. Right, they're just cashing in for a card straight away. Why is when you've seen all these Mutated Cultists in our deck? I don't think I care about this Teferi right now. Thoughtseize, so we can Thoughtseize and make a thing. That seems fine. Narset, Prismatic Ending, Swords to Plowshares, another Teferi. Probably the Plow we care about most here. I guess if they Narset and then wheel in 1 turn, that's really frustrating. But our hand is bad anyway. Do we care about losing all these cards? Not particularly. We're trying to win with our Urza Saga beats. Teferi goes up 1. There's the Narset. We can see a fresh 7. A Force of Negation. Alright, like I said, our hand is probably not getting it done. They played this Prismatic Vista rather than the island that we knew about. Let's make a friend. It's only 1/1, but it's what we've got. So that they can Prismatic Ending this, and that's a-okay for them. The One Ring. Okay. We get 2 cards out of our opponent if we do this. I think we're going to attack them and see if they do anything. Sure, I'll take my damage there. I'm going to go for this Cultist. I don't want to get I don't want our opponent to get a fresh 7 if their hand is bad. This also allows us to play the One Ring, which will eat a counterspell. I can live with that. And we have 2 different creatures that have different CMCs or mana values even, so they won't be killed by the same sort of thing if they've got that little energy spell again. And also killing the Narset makes our One Ring better if it does resolve, which seems very unlikely. It seems this is just going to be a little Hymn to Turak for 1 mana. Okay, no, it's just going to hardcast the Force of Negation. That's fine too. We've got to work through them. We've got some creatures. We can make more creatures. Honestly, the best thing we can do is just draw lands. Like an Ancient Tomb would go a long way in this game. But even just, yeah, an Ancient Tomb would be the best draw because we get 2 constructs a turn then. That'd be real good. What is this? They're going to Prismatic Ending our Cultist. Sure. Need to get this game over and done with before our opponent manages some sort of Fourth Lingus. There's also not a lot of time left on the rounds. Another Teferi. This one going to bounce our construct? It is. Holding up Hardcast Force of Will over there. But like I said, I just want to draw some Ancient Tombs. There it is. That is what we wanted. So now we get to make 4 power every turn that doesn't interact with counterspells. And that 4 power can become 6 power by activating one of these again. So we're not in an unfavourable spot. Our opponent has some cards and some good resources, but they need to be able to leverage those resources. Are we in playing Yorion mode yet as a blocker? I think they might be. There it is. We can push damage pretty effectively here still. They're going to blink their Teferi. They are. This resets the Teferi. Teferi comes back in. Then I will make a construct. And I will make another construct. And we will force through some damage here. The Yorion has to be back on blocks. It will trade with one. Sorry, it will kill one of these for free. But that's fine. Make another construct. So this is 3 damage. I think I'm okay with 3 damage. And we can fit more damage through next turn. Seems alright. If we draw another land, we don't have to take pain from our Ancient Tomb anymore. We've got a minute above our opponent clockwise. Right, they're bouncing one of our guys. But like I said, this will get through for 3 on its own. I don't think we needed that extra 1 point of damage to get through. I could be proven wrong though. Our opponent doesn't appear to have a big game ender, or if they do, it's further down in their deck. Which is kind of some of the problem of running Yorion sometimes. Oh, they've gone down to 2 here. We're going to see like back to basics. Something. Ponder. Another Ponder. No attack from the Yorion. That's good news. Nope, I nearly misclicked again then. We're making a construct. A Dark Depths. This does tap for mana. And we can get attacks here. This is lethal. So our opponent has to do something with it. If we can win this one, I don't think our opponent can win in 5 minutes very easily. Dress down? It is a dress down. Okay. What am I best off doing here? I could strip out this Teferi. That seems alright. So if we use this mana to strip out the Teferi, we can still make 1 construct. I think stripping out the Teferi is better than getting our Dark Depths on the road. This has Death Touch, so it's really annoying for their Yorion. I suppose if we'd have hit them for 1 extra damage in an earlier turn, they wouldn't be able to Force of Will, but they can just hardcast the Force of Will. Attack with that Yorion, they are not. Let's make a construct. I would like to duress my opponent here and see what's going on. Force of Will, sure. 1, 2 for this, 1, 2 for this. What do they not want me to take away? I'm going to duress them again. It's just another Force of Will. Okay. Attack with just a cultist here. If they block, they lose their Yorion. A plow. Sure. Let's make some more bodies. Let's attack. If one of these gets through, it's lethal. I don't think I'm saving that with a plow. No, I'm saving that with the Knot of this World. There's an option we had though. Right, so we lose some guys there. Opponent's got 2 cards in hand. How many plows are down? 1 plow, 2 plow, 3 plow, 4 plow. All the plows are down. Okay. So we can make a Marit Lage. Right. We eventually ground our opponent down with the Saga backup plan. Yikes. So now we have to not lose the game in a short amount of time. I don't think I'm going to play differently because of that. I kind of am tempted to have this Once Upon a Time back in though. Maybe over Not of This World for playing a game where we just don't want to get rolled in 4 minutes by our opponent, who is a very slow deck. We're asking a lot of this Once Upon a Time. I think we're asking too much of it. This hand looks a lot better though. What do we not want here? I think we'll get rid of the Lotus Petal for now. So we're just going to try and surgically remove our opponent's ability to play this game with these Thoughtseizes. Right, that's quite nice later on. Let's try Thoughtseize. They could Brainstorm to protect themselves. Prismatic Ending, Narset, Stony Silence. What does Stony Silence do against us? It shuts off our Lotus Petals and our One Ring. Is that annoying enough that I want to take it? Sure. Like the one ring does allow us to absolutely run away with the game. I would like to cast this Vexing Bauble first, and then we will duress our opponents. I will take this Narset. Yep, there goes the Bauble. Play this, pass. And construct. We just float mana, this is going to die in a second anyway. We get an expedition map. We'll crack the expedition map. Get the I think we're now behind on clock slightly. Smashing with this. Address down, sure. Let's Thoughtseize our opponent. Take the plow. And we'll pass. We don't need to expose our Dark Depths out to anything. We haven't seen any land destruction, to be fair, actually. Right, a Brain Surge. Play this out. Cast a Dark Ritual. Force Negation, Pitching, Brainstorm. Sure. We'll move on with our lives. We can F6 for our opponent's turn. Try and catch up on that 20 seconds we're behind. Teferi is pretty annoying. Teferi means that we need to Mutated Cultist to kill the Teferi here. We get quite a lot of F6 value. What's our opponent up to over there? Brain Surge again, sure. Fighting for valuable seconds. Remove my upkeep stop as well. Right, we're ahead in the race of clock. Another Teferi. Wrath. Okay, that got rid of my thing and I had my F6, so I didn't get anything out of it. That's a shame. Alright, we'll duress our opponent here. So we can stop him from winning the game. Goodbye, Narset. Right, we're just trying to get the F6 value here. There's seconds in this. Right, I guess we're not going to win with this, so we should probably just F6 our turn as well. Yorion Sky Nomad. That can certainly slap pretty hard. Quite short space of time. Alright, we might actually be able to win this one now. If I was playing properly, I probably would have duressed last turn as well. This copies this. Paying some mana. We know they've got a removal spell in hand. We need them to not have multiple removal spells. Alright, we got the match with 1 minute exactly to go. An absolute slogfest. I think the Urza Saga grindy game was quite an interesting one. But we did actually have a proper win here. And if we had more time, we would have duressed first as well and made it extra safe. But we did get there. I'm exhausted by that one. Alright, we've got one round left. So we're currently 2-2, so let's see if we can put a positive on the board. Right, we're playing against Phil. I'm going to keep this hand. We're going to start with just Urza Saga gaming. Are we supposed to fire off the Once Upon a Time first, or are we supposed to wait and see what happens? Because we're not intending on playing these spells for a while, so we can kind of see how it goes. Okay, Vexing Bauble. I guess we're not playing our Once Upon a Time. We should have cast this in response. That was just a whipsy on my part. Right, we'll play this out. Let's get my upkeep stop back. That's confusing me. Yeah, we'll have to hard cast this Once Upon a Time later on. You're going to wasteland our Saga. They are indeed. Goodbye, Saga. A Blooming Marsh. Let's take a little peek at our opponent's hand. I'm not expecting this duress to do a lot of work, but it could do something. Absolutely nothing. Okay. Kind of wish we'd have fired off our Once Upon a Time. Ethosworn Canonist. That's fine by me. If we play the Ancient Tomb, it's going to cost us some life to cast this Once Upon a Time. But it means that we can Mutated Cultist next turn. So I think that is the correct play here. As a Saga of their very own. Sure, let's cast this. Not the ideal selection of cards. I'll take a Cultist though. It does things. It can be a Death Touch blocker. Pithing Needle. We could name Urza Saga. We are trying to do Urza Saga stuff ourselves. So there is that. We could also just remove the counter and delay this. So we don't have to think about it. The Pithing Needle doesn't seem great when they have the Witch Enchanter though. So I think we are on... Let's make a Cultist. This makes our Pithing Needle cheaper, but that's not the thing we want to happen in the face of this Vexing Bauble. But now we have a Death Touch creature in play. So we're going to need a little bit of help. Oh, I'm absolutely knackered after that previous round. I was also up very early this morning. Okay, that's actively good for us. Means that Not of This World will become live at some point. I think it's been quite important if we can win the game 1 here. Because our opponent's going to have like Wastelands, Source of Plowshares, possibly Solitudes. That's quite a lot of junk for us to get through. They might not have Solitudes actually because of the Vexing Bauble. Alright, they've got another Vexing Bauble. I'd quite like to see this Witch Blessed Meadow come down. Ancient Tomb. Stoneforge Mystic. Okay. We are probably going to be Thoughtseizing away this equipment. What is it going to be? A Cauldra? It's a Cauldra, yeah. We're going to have to Thoughtseize that one away. So we're not getting attacked because we've got a Death Touch blocker. A Thoughtseize. Well, we said that's what we were doing. So let's Thoughtseize our opponent. We know the cards in their hand, I believe. Unless I missed this planes coming into play. I don't think I did. Oh, we did. Okay, I guess we take this Cauldron because that's the scary thing I don't want to have to play against. And now... So the Witch Enchanter is really annoying because if we play... If we turn our Thespian stage into a Saga, they just play the Witch and blow up our Saga. And that is a darn shame. We could play this Pithing Needle out. And then if they blow this up, then we copy the Saga. I don't hate that. We're going to try and bait this Witch Enchanter out and then get our own Saga up and running. And if they don't blow up our Pithing Needle, then we don't have to worry about it as a Saga. And that's something at least. Because at the moment, we've got this board under wraps to an extent. They could just play a Solitude and not bother doing Urza Saga stuff. A Wasteland. Okay, that's annoying in different ways. Yeah, these mono-white decks really pressure depth strategies quite grossly. That's why green-white depth is even more horrible, because they have that as well as all the tutors to find all their horrible lands. I don't think they're going to attack for 1 damage here. Right. So we're happy just to let that go. What should that tell me? I don't know. We could strip the counters off this if we're worried about it. Am I worried about this coming into play? What are they going to get? Probably some sort of gnarly equipment. This is our only way of making it 2020, but we're kind of locked out of that by a bunch of things. Oh, how are we supposed to win this game? It feels miserable already. Alright, Cultist. Let's say no to Urza Sagas. I don't want your tutor. Yeah, so when your Mutated Cultist is just killing Planeswalkers by casting it, it feels pretty good. When it's just slightly delaying this Urza Saga and possibly allowing them to make constructs off it in the future, it doesn't feel great. But I think our opponent's probably going to have a 1-drop that can break this game state open. So I don't want to play into that. I want to give ourselves a little bit more time. Alright, so our opponent's turn. How much further are they going to try and bury us this turn? So we've got the Witch Blessed Meadow. They could, I suppose they want to use that to block the Pithing Needle, perhaps. So okay, they've played out of Plains now. So now they can Witch Enchanter. They're just going to take out our only green or black source. Sure, that's pretty good. Okay, so here's the Enchanter. This is going to blow up our Pithing Needle. This is something we wanted to get out of the way so that we could then make our own Urza Saga. Is there any reason to do it now? I think so. Okay, so we want to get our own Urza Saga going. We could have done it in our upkeep so that we get the main phase trigger, but we might have drawn something that changed things like a Dark Depths, and maybe we want to think about presenting the combo. A Canonist. Sure, these are going to make their Urza Saga tokens better. Let's have an Urza Saga of our very own. A Dark Ritual. That's not a spell we're going to be casting this game, is it? Okay. So the plan is to get this up to 2 and then turn it into a Plains. So the problem is our opponent can get a Pithing Needle and stop us from doing Saga stuff. Our opponent is incredibly far ahead. And our hand does nothing. A Lavaspur Boots. That's bad in a different way, but it's still bad. It's not the Pithing Needle, so maybe we can dig ourselves out of this hole. If we can draw like an Urborg, wouldn't be the worst. Alright, an Urza Saga from our opponent. So we can oh, we can't get Pithing Needle, we've already used our Pithing Needle. Yeah, we're probably just going to lose to our opponent's Urza Sagas here. Which of my Death Touch guys is going to go under the bus this turn? Alright, we're getting a plow of our opponent, leaving them with just a Solitude. I will block this construct. I think we're going to be too far behind here. We've taken a fair bit of Ancient Tomb damage here and there. And we're just falling by the wayside. Nah, we're done with that. Alright, going to game number 2. I don't particularly like Duresses here. I do like the Dismembers. The Natural State, how do I feel about these? Not exceptional. I like the Not of This World though. So we're looking for 3 cuts. We might be in some sort of weird trading game where we need a Shadowspear in this matchup. The One Ring looks pretty darn good here. Maybe we're supposed to board out these Hexmages, because they have not been easy to cast this game. Let's try and get rid of some of those. And Dark Ritual is a bit awkward under Athalia, so we just do a little bit of trimming here. We could bring in something like Natural State. it does kill Urza Sagas. Do I like that enough to board out these Dark Rituals? Yeah, go on then. Oh, no, too late. Actually, casting the natural state is going to be an issue, isn't it? This hand is bad. This hand is acceptable, but has some issues. I will keep it. We probably need to keep our coloured mana, which means we're getting rid of the Thoughtseize here. Right, let's have a free spell. An Urborg, yes please. I would like to play an Urza Saga that's probably going to get wastelanded. And then I'm going to make a Lavaspur Boots, and we're going to pass. An Ether Vial. Alright, we're going to get to make a construct. At least one construct. We could have played the Blooming Marsh and Dark Ritual and attacked for 2 this turn, but I don't think that's good. We can use the burst of speed at a later date. Anointed Peacekeeper. So they could name Lavaspur Boots if they wanted to make this harder to equip. They could name the Urza Saga so we don't get another construct. There's options available to our opponent. Yeah, I think Saga is the correct name as well. We don't get to cast this because it now costs 4 to do this, right? Activate ability of sources with the chosen name costs 2 more unless they're mana abilities. So this has to just tap for mana today. This Lotus Petal is very good though. This means that we are outsizing the opponent's creature here. And they're on an Ancient Tomb mana base here. So this could hopefully pressure our opponent in a pretty sizable way. And to answer this, they might have to tap the Ancient Tomb and the Plains to plow it. They could just drop land. And then like start skyclaving our Pithing Needle, reducing our artifact count, getting their Ether Vial back online. Source to Plowshares with Ward. So this is going to take them no damage because they're going to use our Urborg for it. Alright, then we're going to go back down to 20. A Dark Ritual that does nothing. Okay, I think we're probably losing this one. Alright, the Blessed Meadow. They are down to 10 life. Yep, so this is going to be a Skyclave, which takes out our Pithing Needle, which then turns on their Ether Vial and gives them another 3-drop. I'm not sure we're winning this one. Alright, this is an Ether Vial activation in our upkeep for an Archon of Emeria. A Dark Depths. Well, it's not nothing. Feels a bit close to nothing. I'm not going to bother manually removing counters. It takes a lot of time, and our opponent is going to kill us way before this happens anyway, right? We're taking 7. So we need our opponent to not have a removal spell. We can't draw a decent chunk of things here. Alright, we just play this Blooming Marsh. If our opponent puts in a thing with 3 power, in the end step we'd lose. What is it going to be? Archon of Emeria. It's not 3 power, but it's pretty close. Problem is we can make a hasty guy here, but if they leave an Archon back, then we are toast, I think. Okay, they didn't leave an Archon back, so they've given us an out of drawing Vampire Hexmage, removing the counters from this, giving our creature haste and bashing. So we have a chance. Now, they probably just have like Source to Plowshares or whatever. And that's all well and good. But we at least have a worthwhile draw in our deck. We will show ourselves out with that Ancient Tomb activation. Alright, so that is the end of the league with this deck. We finished 2-3, which I think is kind of fair for the deck, because there's quite a few holes in it once you start playing it out. So at the very start, I did mention that the mana base might be a little bit awkward. And I think that was kind of borne out a few times. Like, we did run very well as a colourless deck, but the amount of times we were just sat there with like a black card in hand, or this in hand, or even some Thoughtseize that we just couldn't cast. That did happen a fair bunch. We also didn't really do One Ring stuff. On top of this, I'd also say that Mutated Cultist, trying to utilise the mana ability of this feels a bit awkward, because it's like, okay, so we get our Dark Depths into play, and then we also have this extra bonus thing. It's like, if everything's going that well for us, that's fine, and we're winning those games anyway. It's the games where, you know, we just have this Mutated Cultist and not really else anything to do with it. It's just like, oh, okay, that's not so good. I think this deck is weaker at making, like, it's worse at making Marit Lage than regular Turbo Depths. I think that's a given, because this deck isn't as dedicated to it. We don't have ways of pulling Dark Depths out of our deck. We only have Once Upon a Time and this one expedition map. So we're not trying to do that sort of thing. And that is kind of meaning that the thing our whole deck is built around, we're not actually built around it very well to maximize it. And I think if you're going to build a dedicated deck, you need to be really dedicated. And if you want to try and put these secondary plans in, like having this Urza Saga One Ring shenanigans, then I think you need to build more into that and then have the Dark Depths as a thing in your deck. So if you look at a green-white Depths deck list, it runs usually 2 Depths, 2 Stage. It's pretty reliable at doing it still because it's got Elvish Reclaimers, Knight of the Reliquary, crop rotations, but it's not skewing the whole deck into this really linear pattern. But it has more reliability of doing that than we do in this deck. So I just feel we've kind of skewed in a very weird way to build this one. I like what's trying to go on here, though. I think it is, you know, attempting some new stuff, seeing how it feels. A lot of the time you don't know until you actually get it into a game and go, okay, how does this play? And, you know, I think there's quite a few flaws with this deck. I think it was definitely worth trying, which is, you know, why I was excited when my donor gave me this one to play. I don't think this is where I want to go with Dark Depths in future. What I do like about some of this deck, though, is the combination of Ancient Tomb and Mutated Cultist. So Mutated Cultist is a sorcery speed way of getting a Dark Depths token, which is not the ideal time to get that. But we've kind of mitigated that a little bit by having Lavaspur Boots in the deck. But Vampire Hexmage has always been a card that is difficult to cast in some of the decks that want to try and remove the counters, unless you're dedicated to doing that much more than we are here. So having a thing that's easier to do it, even though it does cost more, means that you can play Ancient Tomb, and maybe you want to be like a mono black Ancient Tomb Stompy style deck that also happens to have Mutated Cultist in it. Maybe that is the actual path you want to be playing. So you'd have like, I don't know, that's still quite a lot of colourless lands though, isn't it? Even if we're like talking about doing this, if we just pull out these depths, and I'll move the coloured lands out the way. So that's a slot of 16 colourless lands if you were to play this in some sort of mono black Stompy. What you could do, though, is now that we have Hexmage and Cultists, who says we need to play Thespian Stage in a mono-black Stompy list? Like a mono-black Depth Stompy. So we could just have these 12 lands, which is still quite a lot of colourless lands. But if the rest of the lands in our deck are all Urborgs and Swamps, I think you can probably do that. That's probably going to be enough black mana that you can reliably cast Hexmage and Cultist. And you still have your Expedition map to go and find your Dark Depths if you want it. There is an argument for having 1 Thespian Stage to find with an Expedition map if you do that. You could even have like 3 in 1. But I think if you're trying to do this whole plan, maybe you do want to have the full 4 depths as a thing you can do. But I think that would be a better plan. I think the main plan of this deck isn't coherent enough. I think we are trying to do this, but also saying, why don't we try and do some One Ring as a Saga stuff? I think you need to commit to one of them and have the other as a backup plan instead of not committing enough to the Depths plan. I think the Depths plan requires a lot more committal if you're running 4 copies of, you know, if you're running this suite of cards here, these 16 slots, you need to be really committed to making this happen every game. And I don't think that means you're playing as a Saga Ancient Tomb in this deck if you want to be reliably doing this sort of thing. Sideboard wise as well, like the Force of Vigor is a spell we basically never would have been able to cast. I think Natural State looked better, but again, the problems with the mana meant that didn't feel amazing either. Vexing Bauble I think should be in the main deck. That card, we wanted it in that one round and we didn't have it and it was a bit awkward. But I think this is, you know, this is the mainstay. And as you saw in the last round where Phil was playing Death and Taxes, a lot of fair decks are going to be running possibly 4 of these in their main deck, at least until Necro Dominance gets banned. Because otherwise, if you go first, you at least have a way of playing the game. And this cantrips, right, so it's fine. You have a way of playing the game against those decks. Whereas if you're a fair deck and you don't have anything like this in your main deck, you're just dead. You're just going to lose those matchups. And there's nothing you can do about it. Whereas at least this gives you a fighting chance. And it's a main deckable card because it cycles. And it also has a lot of splash damage against things like Enemy Griefs or Lotus Petals from sort of other decks. Force of Wills, countering your cool creatures that you want to have the come into play effects of or whatever. So I think at the moment, I'm expecting the format to gravitate towards a place where a lot of decks are running some number of Vexing Bauble in the main. Some of them will just have 1 for like as a Saga targets, but I think having more for a lot of decks is going to be the way forward. Like if you've got generic disruption like Thoughtseize and Duress, that's probably fine. But if you're a white deck or something like that, you probably just need to play Vexing Bauble, otherwise you're not competitive in Legacy right now. You need like counter spells, hand disruption, or Vexing Bauble style cards, or prison pieces. Otherwise, you're just not going to get there. All right, that's us done for today. I hope you enjoyed another foray into the world of Modern Horizons 3 and Legacy. There'll be plenty more of it coming up, so remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss any. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget Turbo Depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbo Depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.